You know what the problem is? We made this comic book, and that's how they drew me, and I have to try to get there. So
anything else is a failure.
My life is, yeah, exactly. Chicken and rice. You're listening to Studio 22.
Welcome to Studio 22. I'm one of your hosts, Will Meldman. We don't have the sexiest topic today. However, if implemented correctly, it can lead to sexiness. Speaking of sexy, my co-host, Brock O'Hearn.
I feel like we have to now immediately go into what the topic is so that people can understand what this sexy topic is.
We will dive in to nutrition.
Nutrition. I'm excited about this one because it is equally as massive a part of my life as it is a hindrance, in the sense that I struggle and also thrive with nutrition on a regular basis.
Absolutely. And like, think about it. It's what you put in your body every day.
Yeah.
And the fact that we don't think about it or talk about it all the time is crazy, because we should be very concerned with what we put in our bodies every day.
Yeah. It's very, very much a habit-based thing. You know, it's like, we breathe, we sleep, we eat, and nutrition, sometimes we go in autopilot mode and just start eating whatever feels good. You know, we eat for different reasons, but at the end of the day, we need it to survive, right? So when it comes to goals and, you know, how you want to feel and just overall, just what you're putting in your body, and it shows, you know, and some people have, I would say, you know, more predispositions more than others, in the sense that some things affect their body more, right? So you can have inflammation more than somebody else if you eat a certain food, right? Or you can have a lactose intolerance, or you can have, you know, there's a million different things you can break it down, right? But we just have to be more aware of what we're doing with that. And so we want to dive into that a little bit. And
totally.
What about nutrition for you stands out when someone first mentions it?
Honestly, I think it's the more I learn about it, the more you realize how individualized it is. And it depends completely on your habits, your tastes, your ability to cook for yourself, eat out. And I think it's way more personalized than people understand. At least that was my big epiphany when meeting with a nutritionist. Was it all revolves around what you're capable of doing and like how serious you want to take it and what your goals are. And everyone has different goals. And I think it'll be interesting to dive into this, because it's funny. I'm not calling you abnormal. I'm just saying, like, you know, there's kind of, I think I'll be coming from a more like, quote, normal perspective of like daily routines for someone that isn't training to be an action star in films. And you can kind of come from that more intense, almost bodybuilding type perspective.
Yeah, I think those are two great perspectives to have, really, because you did mention, you know, it depends on your goals, right? Well, if your goal is to just be healthy, well, then you have to define what healthy is, right? And what works for you in that sense. And if you want to enjoy yourself more often, and I personally have, like, I am obsessed with food. I love food. It's a happy place for me. And I think it wasn't when I was younger, but when I started getting a little bit older and eating more, you know, 5-star restaurants, or trying different foods, or, you know, traveling places and trying things that were, you know, I had never done before. I just kind of like loved it even more. But also, I'm always hungry. Like, I work out all the time, right? So I'm hungry all the time. And sometimes, like, my body just craves carbs or chips or whatever, ice cream, it could be whatever it is. And I have a consumption issue of like, I'm still hungry, so I want to keep eating, but I'm realizing I'm putting some really bad stuff in my body. So it's about having a discipline there that you can turn it off, or realize that, okay, you're going a little too far now at the wrong time, depending on what your goals are. And that is how, you know, we get out of shape. We gradually get to that point. It's because of our habits and what we're putting in our body on a regular basis. It's like, I can train hardcore all day, but if I'm eating crappy, I'm going to feel crappy and I'm not going to get the results that I want. But I can train mediocre or even not at all, but if I eat perfectly, impeccably, I'm going to feel great and I'm going to look great.
Well, that's the other thing too, is like managing those realistic expectations of you need to figure out essentially your number, and that number being your caloric intake on a daily basis just to function. And our numbers are completely different.
Yeah.
Like I did it at Equinox, did the whole BMI testing and all that. And I should consume 2,900 calories a day just for like my bone and muscle mass to function, which is crazy because it a little bit more than I thought.
Yeah.
But with working out and all that, like that's a number for me. You being, 6'7" instead of 5'10", and having larger muscle mass, you'll have a way higher number than me.
Yeah.
And like I've literally seen you train super hard, eat perfectly, and then eat some pizza, but you're still going to look perfect because you're under that caloric intake level.
Yeah.
And you physically can't gain weight if you're under that caloric intake, essentially.
Yeah. And I think it comes down to a lot of it's like maintaining or growing muscle. It takes a lot more protein and calories than you would think naturally off the bat. But it's exactly if you're staying under your caloric number and you're in a deficit, you're not going to gain weight, right? But I still genuinely feel that it affects you in a way that a lot of people don't necessarily think of. Like, there's a big difference between eating, 3,500 calories of marshmallows and 3,500 calories of chicken.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So it's just, you might be technically losing weight, but your muscle density, your bone density is probably going to change. Your mental clarity is going to change. Like, there's going to be all kinds of different, and I'm not telling anybody to eat 3,500 calories of either one of those things, to be honest with you. But, you gotta figure out what works for you. And our bodies they're so different, and then our goals are different, and then our metabolisms are different. We can speed it up and slow it down. That's what happens over time when you start gaining weight, is you slowly, because of your habits, because of the food you put in your body, because of the processed foods you put on your body, it slows down, and then you're not able to burn fat on a regular basis as quickly or as good. And then what you can do is fix your diet and your timing of your nutrition and the food you're putting in your body, and then you speed up your metabolism. And then now your new baseline is completely different, but you're burning fat on a regular basis, and you're staying healthier all around because of the way you're eating. And so that's something that I was looking into recently, and there was this doctor that was talking about it, and a nutritionist, and he said, you hear people who are vegan and they talk about how they feel incredibly better after they switch to being vegan, or people that do keto and they feel so much better once they turn to being keto. And he was like, well, the commonality between the two of those things are that you've eliminated food. You've eliminated processed foods out of your diet. So naturally, you're not putting canola oil and all this other crap and processed junk that a lot of it we don't even know the ramifications of yet because it hasn't been around as long. And we're starting to see it in people, right? And the obesity rate is going up over and over year after year in America. And
it's a big problem.
Yeah, and you start to see the effects of it in people's bodies and the way we show up and the way we feel. It's all interconnected. And I think if you can eliminate the bad stuff and focus on whole foods, you can't go wrong with that,
100%. And I think like what we'll try to do is make our experiences with nutrition more universal so people can kind of understand our approach to it and our experience with it, and then apply it kind of to their own lives and figuring out what works for them.
Yeah. And I feel like it's the same thing, not to cut you off, but with somebody who's vegan, right? Or vegetarian. They have their choices and what makes their body feel good, and whether it's coming from a animal conservation mentality or whether it's coming from whatever their reasons are, it's different for everybody. And I think that finding what works for you and makes you feel good at the end of the day is important.
Totally. And like, again, from like, I'm just going to keep saying it, from like a normal person's perspective, like I still think protein is incredibly important. And like, I will never be vegan because I think having that muscle mass, especially when you get older, I mean, like it is so important to have. Like when you get really older, you start falling down and stuff like that. I mean, it could be the difference of like really bad scenarios of if you can either like grip or pick yourself up or having like the muscle to support the fall, and all that comes into play. And you can't build muscle mass when you're older as well, right? You have lower testosterone levels, and it's way harder to do. So having it when you're younger is very important to when you get to that stage. And I think about that a lot of like, I don't have to be a bodybuilder, but I do have to lift weights. And I do want to consume, high quality meat products and maintain a certain amount of muscle mass for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's plenty of studies out there that will tell you, having some form of muscle mass or muscle, density as you get older, it protects you. It protects your bones. It protects your body. Exactly. If you fall, you're able to get up. There's a lot of benefits that are, some of them above my pay grade, but I know that they're out there, right? And it's a simple construct, right? Like if you were just bones and tendons and ligaments, you're not going to be doing anything. You're not moving around, but it's definitely. I believe, and I think I can say that I know you have a better or higher life expectancy when you have more muscle mass in older age, for sure. But for a lot of the reasons you just said. Yeah. And, I'm kind of in the same boat, like there's so many different opinions and science and, different reasons for people to argue people are like, I've seen so many different arguments and some people are like, well, you're not humane. You eat fish. Like, what are you doing? And it's like, but other fish eat fish. And I'm not saying I'm a fish, right? But I know it's a clean, healthy protein that
fish sticks.
Yeah, and I feel like when you look into meats too, there's so many vitamins and minerals that are within a healthy meat that benefit our body, whether you live. And I'm not saying that I'm right or I'm wrong, and that you should be eat meat or not. That's for each individual to choose and make up their own mind and what works best for them and what they think's healthy. But I think there's definitely ramifications of the way that we get food and everything. But what the importance is, what is it for you? Like for me, I could be wrong, but I don't know any other way to put on the amount of muscle that I am trying to maintain and grow without proteins that are, for me, dairy based, and meat proteins. I like to add in other complex proteins. I get stuff from veggies. I get, some. I'm staying away from them with my diet. My diet's pretty clean right now, but you've got a lot
soy and nut protein,
pea protein. Yeah, I stay away from soy because it's gonna lower my testosterone levels.
Very high in estrogen, right?
Yeah, it definitely increases your that. But some will say it's minimal, some will say it's not. But to me, if it does it at all, that's opposite of the direction I want to go as a male, right? As a man, and for my goals. So, I just try to keep it balanced.
Again, personal goals.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, exactly. But it's about finding that balance, right? What works for you, and that word balance too. Like, it could mean something completely different to you as it does to me as to somebody else, right? Like my balance could be 99% perfect diet, and then I have one, cheese it once a week, and that's the balance for me because that's what makes me feel good mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, whatever else you want to call it. But
yeah,
what is it for you?
100%. And like, again, we're not up here sitting on a high horse. Like, obviously, like I am definitely the one to just crave a Big Mac and order a Big Mac, right? Like I am definitely not above any of that. It's for me really focusing on 90% of my diet being perfect. So I have that 10% to play around with because I know I have certain pitfalls in my dietary program that will, if I don't satisfy those needs column, I will fail on sustainability. Because for me, that is what it's all about, is long-term sustainability on doing something realistic that I know I can accomplish. And like one example of that is I have a huge sweet tooth. So what do? And this is actually from my nutritionist, Dr. Philip Goglia, who I love. He's the coolest dude ever. He did, I think, not all, but most of all the Marvel cast, preparing them for their films. He worked with, I think he has like a page in Kim Kardashian's book, which is kind of cool, good press. And just an overall badass, and worked with him for months to really nail down my program. And he basically told me, after you eat a pound of protein for dinner, based off my body index and all that, have a little bit of organic, natural sorbet afterwards. Because he's like, that is a healthy, sugary way to satisfy that sweet tooth before going to bed, where I won't ruin my dinner or like, cancel it all off by eating a gallon of ice cream, but I'll take care of that need and still stay on my program without losing the effectiveness. And like, that was like a huge thing for me, because I was able to enjoy a little bit of sorbet after dinner, and it just quelled all of those obstacles I could have potentially had. So what are some of those pitfalls that you may have in your diet that like, oh man, Charleston Chew at the movie theater, man, I gotta get it.
Yeah.
Like, what are those for you?
Movies are definitely tough, just because of, I love them, and I love going in that experience of getting popcorn, a candy, and a soda, whatever it is. But just to touch on what you just said with sustainability and that having that, sorbet at the end of your, after your meal, and just to not ruin that meal or to go overboard or whatever it is, and you found a healthy way of doing it like that. Those are the tricks that I think people need to find more of that work for them, because I have my pitfalls, I would say, is I'm always hungry, pretty much. And again, I have a sweet tooth, but I also have, like, some people are usually sweet or salty. I'm both. I'll eat everything, dude. And it's like I'm a garbage disposal. And so I'll get to a point where I'm like, I can't even tell you how many times I've had a family-sized bag of chips in front of me and I ate the whole bag before I even realized. I'm like, what did I just do, dude?
Well, for me, that's like a little bag.
Yeah, well, then, yeah. So it's just relative. It's all relative.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll binge a little bit, and like I'm like, oh, I should just only have one bite, and the next thing I know, I'm like, 3/4 the way through the pint, and I'm like, stop, and I can't stop, But that's where it comes down to discipline and choosing. Well, what are my goals? Am I able to afford doing this right now? Do I want to do this? Because a pint to me versus someone who's 5'2", 95 pounds is a very much different effect on their body, right? I'm more than double that. So it's just a matter of, I think, finding those things that help you mitigate those pitfalls that you have, and choosing the healthy option as often as you can, but not limiting yourself. And again, this depends on your goals, right? If you're trying to be a bodybuilder or whatever your goals are, and you want to be extremely lean, you're going to have to cut out a bunch of stuff, and you're going to have to do a little bit more work, and you're going to have to focus on your discipline of not doing that. Because when I go hardcore, I'll go all in, and I can't turn it off, or I don't want to turn it off. I can't say I can't turn it off, because I can definitely turn it off. But it's just a matter of like, how bad do I want that goal, right? What is that goal? Am I training for a film? Am I doing this to, be in the best shape of my life? Is it, what is that driving factor behind me, right? And am I willing to go to the limit for me to get there? And so finding those things, like there's so many healthy recipes that you can just Google that taste amazing, that have like little or no sugar, that even trick your mind into thinking that, that you've had something sweet or something great when it was actually something that was healthy for you. And you just got to go find them. But that's even like chewing a piece of gum, People will get hardcore and they won't chew gum because it has like a little bit of sugar, 1 gram of sugar or something.
Right.
But it's like, that actually tricks your mind into thinking that you're eating, or that and so you end up mitigating that craving of hunger, or doing little tricks. Like, I learned this a long time ago, is if you drink a glass of water before your meal, it can replace 70 to 90 calories of that meal, because you're filling yourself up, right? So then there's no room, or not as much room. So it's little tricks like that, and just finding what works for you. But I find that if I have a regimen, I have a diet, it's all my macros are balanced out, and I stick to that, I don't really want anything else, because like I'm pretty full, and I know I've done everything I wanted as far as goals. to get there. And it's not like it tastes bad. You know, I enjoy the food that I eat, and I'm eating good, healthy food. And but every now and again, depending on my goals, again, if I'm just maintaining, I'll enjoy myself. You know, you shouldn't. It's sustainability. If you're going to do a diet that's hardcore, like keto, for example, can be pretty hardcore for people. Some people enjoy it and they love it and it works great for them. For me,
well, I don't like those programs though. I don't think, and this I've talked about this with Goglia too. Like, one, he hates the word diet. Like, it's just like focus. It's nutrition.
Yeah,
it's just being more aware and conscious of what you put in your body, right? And like, that's the thing when it comes to food and all this. When I was doing the strict program, I'm like, I'm going to Europe. I want to feel good, travel light, whatever. And I was getting my body fat percentage down by 1% each week, just doing his program. And he had like the way to test it in his office. It was super cool. But I'm not doing that every week. So like, I had to go to the grocery store every 3 days. I had to cook every single meal. And that's taking up a lot of my time, right?
Yeah.
And it's tough to keep that consistent too, which that's why I switched to a meal plan service, which really allows me to get more work done during the day and to save some time, grocery store, et cetera. And by the way, you're saving money on groceries by doing the meal plan.
Yeah.
And ordering out. Ordering out is a killer for the wallet and the diet. Because restaurants, you know, you could order super healthy things, but they're going to put in butter and salt no matter what.
Yeah.
And you can ask, you know, no salt, no butter, whatever. But it's something to be very cognizant of when eating out, ordering out, is like you're getting that extra stuff without even knowing.
Yeah. And it's also that price point too, right? Like, I forgot who said this to me one time, but they said, when you go to a restaurant, you're not paying for the food, you're paying for the rent, you know, or the mortgage or whatever it is, right? So the nicer the place, generally the more expensive these meals are going to be, when you could probably get that same meal that was $112 for, you know, $20 or whatever it may be. Now you got to do a little bit extra work, and maybe it won't taste as good, or maybe it'll taste even better. Some people are incredible chefs, right? But finding that out, or even delivering too, right? Like, we live in LA and we've got, you know, all of these different apps that they can deliver to your door. Well, there's a surcharge, there's a, you know, delivery fee, there's a tip, there's a this, there's a that, and it's like
getting way more expensive.
Yeah,
right?
next thing you know, you spent $60 on a burrito, right. And it's like, well, I can spend $400 on a week's worth of meals if you find the right program or plan or whatever it is.
Oh yeah, that $60 can be 3 days of meals.
Yeah,
and yeah.
And that's for me too. It's like it's finding those things out where it's sustainable. You know, do I like cooking food every day? No, I don't. It's again a time suck, and there's other things I want to focus my attention on. And that's why, like, I enjoy meal plans as well. But if I can just pop something, you know, open really quick, eat it, and get on my day, and the next thing you know, I've got 5 of those meals a day. It makes my life easier so that I don't have to think about that anymore. So what do? Yeah. I go and focus on the important things. I focus on my training. I focus on my work. I focus on my relationships with people. And it's one less thing. It's the same thing like when they say, you know, Steve Jobs or whoever it is always wore the same outfits, right? Because they don't have to think about putting their clothes on in the morning. They wear the same thing every day. Now,
like a life hack, right?
Yeah.
Just like saving time, being more efficient.
Yeah, and then your focus can go somewhere else, right?
Yeah.
So,
and by the way, some people love to cook, right? Like, and we're all for that and on board with that. It's like 100%. Just trying to figure out, because you're on like a very strict program right now. So you're like, I want to control 100% of all of it, which is great. I'm on more sustainable, long-term, just eating healthy. So I'm on the meal plan, which is easy, saves me money on ordering out or going to the store.
I'm eating for results.
So it's like 2 degrees. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And so for me, if it was a bunch of chalk that I'd eat every day and it would get me the results I wanted, I would do that. Luckily, it's not that, and I don't have to do that. But yeah, if you're, and even when I'm not though, when I'm not trying to train this hard and you know, change my physique this much, because it's body manipulation, you know, and it's realizing everything you put in your body affects you. The timing of when you put it in your body affects you. The workload you do outside of it, and that's including, you know, stress from work or family or, you know, whatever, from life. It could be traffic that stresses you out, right? Finding those things to mitigate that as well, like meditation and prayer, or listening
I'm like
to
Dennis
music.
Reynolds out there on the road. I'm just, oh my God.
Well, it took me like 35 minutes to get a mile just now, and I'm like, ooh, this is driving me nuts. But then I'm like, well, stop stressing, because all that's going to do is that causes stress in your body. You release cortisol, you do all these other different things, and then it shows up on your body in different ways. I'm like, I don't need that. I'm already working so hard. Why add more? And I stress my body every day in the gym, sometimes 3 times a day. And but it's, I love what you said though, because it is, even when you're off of it, you can focus on a sustainable thing, and then you can enjoy yourself. You can go to dinner with friends, and you can order the cake, or the. I'm going to go on a tangent of all the good desserts, and I don't want to do that right now.
Oh, we can go dark.
Focus.
No, yeah. For example, one of my programs was like protein shake in the morning, right? Or oatmeal with honey and peanut butter and a banana.
Yeah.
And then, a vegetable snack or a fruit snack before lunch. And then lunch, I'll just do a plain chicken breast with white rice and soy sauce or whatever you want to put on it.
Yeah.
And then for dinner, I'll do a pound of protein, like ground turkey, ground chicken, beef, steak, put it on the grill, whatever. And, the little bit of sorbet after. And like, that's my routine. And I love that. Like I could eat chicken and rice every day, and I did. And I love like little ground turkey with marinara sauce. Oh, I could eat it every day for dinner, and I did. But it took a lot. But I had a very strict goal. I want to get into like some of the options that people can do, because honestly, what I've found to be the best, Costco actually has like the most stringent vendor guidelines of like any large scale retailer. And they have the highest grade meats at the lowest cost with the most amount, obviously.
Yeah.
And I had no idea of that, right? You think Costco, you think like discount store. No. It's a wholesaler that actually is very, very tough to get into as a vendor. So you're getting the best stuff. And you can literally go in there with $100 to $150 and get an entire week's worth of meat, rice, fruit, veggies, whatever it is. And like, that is insane to me.
Yeah.
Like, think of how much you can stretch $1 with that amount.
And that's, it's funny you mentioned that, because that's something that I've always, done and known as somebody who's deeply into fitness and all that stuff. But in the sense that like, it's very well known in the industry, that Costco, because again, you buy in bulk, it's cheaper, it's more sustainable. You get the things exactly of what you need to prep and do all that stuff. So when you see like competitors walking on stage, the chances for bodybuilding or fitness shows or women's bikini, whatever it is, the chances they go to Costco, I can confidently say, are very, very high, because of exactly everything that you just said.
Yeah, and that's really cool to know too, right?
Yeah.
Like I didn't know that about competition style, what they eat and all that, or how they get it. And because you think like, okay, you go to a higher scale, more expensive retailer, I'm going to get higher quality stuff. And
it's not always the case.
There's something just counterintuitive about like a discount store like Costco getting the highest quality stuff.
Yeah, but that's part of it being a membership place, right? And it's a wholesaler essentially. So you get everything at wholesale and then in bulk, so you can maximize. Like instead of going to the store and getting, and these numbers aren't going to be right? But if you get a bag of oatmeal that's maybe 2 pounds for $16, well, you went to Costco for that same price and you got 10 pounds or something like that. It's like you
and that'll last a month.
Exactly, or more, So it's about finding those little life hacks and to do it sustainable, but then it's affordable. It doesn't have to cost you an arm and a leg to be in shape, and people do that. Like when I first really got into working out, it wasn't my first time, but I found my first real training partner. So I was about 18, 19 years old. My buddy Jeremy, he's the man. He's about 5 or 6 years older than me, but we had about the same strength. And he was a much bigger guy than me as far as muscular wise. We lived off of $12 a week food for each of us, and we got jacked doing it. And we did like very specific meals, and we would split things, and it was a little bit more than that, right? But over time, it was like we had our weight gainer protein shakes, we had bagels because they're higher calorie, on PB and J on a bagel that we and a protein shake. So we'd get those two right before we even walk out of the gym. Then we had frozen turkey patties for extra calories before bed because we were trying to bowl.
That's good lean protein, the turkey patty.
Yeah, and cheaper, and you can keep them frozen. They last a long time. And then we would do pretzels with cheese. And this is not a diet, I'm telling you, but before bed, because we wanted to gain as much weight as possible. And
got it.
Yeah,
for like the weight gain.
Yeah, and so you start to add like all these different things up. And it was a very cheap, because we were living off of his welfare that was like $600 every 2 weeks or something like that. Not welfare, his unemployment, sorry. And we just, dude, like we somehow got so jacked for like 6 months. That's all we did. And we were eating, very minimal ingredients, I guess you could say, but it was a very cheap alternative. And we just went after it. And to my point of me saying that, it's not the healthiest option, right? But it did get us results, and it was very, very cheap. And so when people are like, oh, it's too expensive, cheap food, yeah, lower quality calories are always going to be cheaper. Look at McDonald's. It's super cheap for a reason, right? Higher quality calories, are going to be more expensive. And so people try to avoid that. Like, I don't want, like, if I can just get, a grilled cheese and that'll be my meal, or a quesadilla, and it costs me $2, I'd rather go that route than spending $10 on, organic turkey or this or that. But it goes down to, and there's a bunch of shows and documentaries and all that stuff out there, but it's like you either pay a little bit more up front and take care of yourself on the front end, or on the back end, the ramifications of that are you're going to be paying in medication and medical bills and all this other stuff and then quality of life. Your quality of life goes so far down, and I know it's directly related to mental health in so many ways, what we put in our body, mental clarity, fatigue, all of that stuff. So exactly, it's all related. And then it even comes down to one of the reasons I love fitness is I've never found a bad thing about it. And what I found when I was young is I was very insecure. I didn't have a lot of confidence. When I started to get in shape, people started to treat me different because I could show with my physique, I had consistency. I wasn't afraid of hard work. I was disciplined.
Take care of yourself. You have self-respect.
Yeah. And so people started to treat me differently, and I started to look differently. So I started to feel differently. And when I started to feel differently, and when I started to look differently, when people treated me differently, well, then my world changed a little bit, right? Because the reactions were different. And so my quality of life went up innately. Well, then I was more friendly. I was more outgoing. I was less insecure, and I got rid of like all of these different strange
anxieties.
They kind of started to go away, and I stepped into a confident man that I wasn't before. I was an insecure boy, right? And it all was just a what's the right term? Like it was
a result of working out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so when that happened, I'm like, look, this just proves, at least to me, maybe everyone's story is a little bit different. And I mean, everyone's story is a little bit different, but why wouldn't you do that?
And like, I like what you said, like, because we touched on this with Pistol Pete when I'm like, if I'm looking better and go to the beach, I like feel better. And he's like, like how you look is a byproduct.
Yeah.
Right. And like, your story, from what I can tell, is more of like, I had anxiety, and then I started working out, and I had less anxiety.
Yeah.
It's not.
Well, for me, it was depression, but yeah, exactly.
Well, there you go. Right.
Yeah.
And like, I didn't want to speak for you or say anything out of line. I was just trying to like really get to the bottom of it. Was, literally made you feel better.
Yeah.
And not because you looked better and all that. It's like, no. Like, this is a health thing.
Before the internet spread information as well as it does today, I went because it was the one time in my day after I killed myself in a 3-hour workout or whatever it was. I went as hard as I possibly could every single day. That afterwards I had this endorphin high that was like the only time in my day where I felt happy. And it felt amazing. And I became addicted to that. So I became addicted to working out because I was chasing that endorphin release. And I didn't even realize that. And then I saw a TED Talk like, a decade later, and this woman went exactly into that. And it was like, I instinctually went towards that because that was the feeling I felt. And,
right.
and then to have science back it, I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what, I don't have all the science mumbo jumbo terms down, but that's exactly what I was feeling. And that's exactly why I did it, and like you said, a byproduct, I'm not going to complain about it. I put in work, and I did it for.
Yeah, it is a lot of work.
I did it to be healthy, and it was healthy all around. And I want to be healthy in every aspect of my life. I want to be healthy in my friendships. I want to have healthy in my relationships, my family. I want to have a healthy work relation, like a healthy work life. I want to have a healthy body, healthy mind, healthy spirit. Like that's the goal.
For sure.
And so it's all working towards that, and whatever that looks like for you, right?
100%. And like I also did it to feel better. I was probably like 25 pounds overweight when I saw Dr. Goglia. And that was my goal, was to lose weight, feel better, be more productive, be more active. Because when I was overweight, I wasn't as productive. You get tired easierly. You get tired more easily. And, it affects your entire life.
Yeah.
And some people, like, again, I want to like keep saying this, like, there's no high horse here. Like, everyone is different. Everyone's comfortable at different things. And even with like the meal plan stuff, if someone out there is listening and is like, yeah, maybe I could lose 5 pounds, whatever it is. It's like, okay, well, maybe try doing chicken and rice every day for lunch. And like, just start with that. Start with one meal and see if you can do that long term. And you're like, okay, I got this down. Maybe I'll do a protein shake for breakfast instead of pancakes.
Yeah.
Right. And then like, you're just slowly implementing something. And before you know it, you're going to be cutting weight like that.
Yeah.
And it's going to fly off your body. And like, it might take a little longer to go buy it and cook it and do all that. But again, there are cheap options. And I think that's the biggest hurdle of like nutrition, is you don't have to spend a lot of money to eat healthier. And that literally, it's the opposite. Like, you spend more money on takeout and even nice restaurants, or like everything.
Yeah.
Like, you can eat super, super healthy for not a little less money, a lot less money. And like that, I think, is the biggest, like, what do you call it? Like the biggest misconception of dieting and nutrition is that you need a lot of money to eat healthy. It's just not true.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, if you're literally living off of, the dollar menu at McDonald's, then that might be cheaper. But to actually do things like go to the grocery stores, get all the extra food and carbs and sugars that you don't need, and do, eat out and, spend your money on things that are like, they don't add up to a healthy lifestyle, and it doesn't mean don't treat yourself, it doesn't mean go enjoy those meals and do all that stuff.
I'll get a Big Mac every couple of weeks. Just because fuck it.
but yeah, exactly. And it comes, what I think it comes down to
but
is,
I know I'm going to do that, right? Like,
it's your habits.
I accept it.
And exactly. But what you just said too is your habits, and it's what you do. All you do, if you can't do it all at once because it's not sustainable, it doesn't make sense, do exactly what you said. Do chicken and rice for lunch. Try that for a week. See if that sticks. It only really takes, I think, 2 weeks to form a real habit. So if you can do something for 2 weeks, all of a sudden it becomes a normal to you. And if you can add one more thing the following week, right? And that's what you should do anyways when it comes to nutrition. If you're trying supplements, for example, you shouldn't take 20 different supplements all at once if you haven't tested or tried them or see how your body reacts to them, right? Because if you take 20 of them, then if you feel weird, you're like, well, which one of the 20 or multiple of the 20 or the combination of the 20?
It'll shock your system hard.
Exactly. Yeah. So you should do slowly introducing it into your system. But then, so you have those habits, but then what to me is such a big factor is it's a respect you have for yourself and how you treat yourself and how you show up for yourself. Our bodies are temples, right? So why wouldn't we show up for ourselves? And when you start doing that and you start giving yourself, something that you're not exactly choosing the easy route, because it's easy to, order I don't know, something delicious like spaghetti and meatballs and whatever the heck else, a bunch of gelato.
Penne alla vodka.
Exactly. So you can go down a rabbit hole of all this different stuff that tastes amazing, right? But when you start to treat yourself and respect yourself better, you're going to show up for yourself better, and your entire existence is, gets to benefit off that, because your life will get better because of the way you're treating yourself. And what happens is when we choose to do the latter, and sometimes it's lack of education, sometimes it's just having bad habits, sometimes it's, food's a comfort for people. It is for me for sure. So we dive into that and then we abuse it essentially. And essentially we're abusing ourselves. And so if we can change our perspective on that and why we're doing what we're doing, realize what you're doing and what you're putting in your body and how that's affecting you, it's just the results and, just the stuff that comes out of it, it's all good, and it changes your life. I just know it does because I've lived it, and I've seen it affect other people, and how much introducing health on a high level has helped people on so many different levels.
100%, man. Like, everyone's different. We all have our own goals, plans, budgets, 100%. And nowadays, though, what I've realized too, if I go to like a food order website, right? You can order a chicken breast and like white rice. Now you can order groceries. There's grocery delivery apps.
Yeah.
So you can literally just do that instead. It'll be cheaper.
Yeah.
And you're still ordering it.
And if you live in a place like LA or probably New York or whatever, and you can do something like that, because I don't think all cities have that, right? But if you can do that.
Mainly city living, probably.
Yeah. But think about how much time that saves you in traffic and at the grocery store. You have maybe 3 hours extra in your day because you didn't go to the grocery store and you ordered. And so maybe you paid a little surcharge, right?
Right.
But, I mean, realistically, I think that's a pretty fair deal because you just and that depends on your time, right? But if you have the time and you enjoy doing that or whatever it is, then go do that. Or if you don't have, the 20 extra bucks to go do it, then, do what you have to, and if you can afford a Costco membership, try to get that and buy things in bulk, because you'll end up saving money with, spending $100 or whatever, the $40, whatever the membership is per year, with the food that you get and the amount that you get. When you spread that out, you're really just doing yourself a really good service, I think. So nutrition is cool.
Nutrition is cool. And
cool.
Our bodies are our temples, man. Like 100%. And like, again, from a normal person's perspective, we don't all have to look like Brock. It's okay. It's about feeling good, doing things that are realistic for you, and doing it on a budget that you can afford. Because there are plenty of ways to eat healthy, like without spending the money you would on unhealthy food. And the more we can like spread that message, I think that's like the biggest myth in nutrition and dieting is that to eat healthier will cost more money. It's just not true.
And that's the great thing too, right? If we all come together and we eat more healthy, there's going to be a higher demand for the healthy food and we're going to produce more of it.
Right.
So that's kind of where we're at right now.
And even like, isn't it in the Bible, like on the third or fourth day, God created livestock or something? Spencer, can you check that, please?
Yeah, so it says water and sky animals were made on the 5th day, and on the 6th day, land animals and people were created.
Dude, thank you. Fuck yeah. Spencer coming in hot. So yeah, like literally in the Bible, as a Christian, it says water and sky animals were created on the 5th day. And on the 6th day, God created land animals and people, humans. And why would God create that for us? To eat, literally, like to sustain us, not to factory farm like we are today. Like there are plenty of issues we can talk about with the modern meat system. And like, of course, we're not getting in that today. We do have a great episode with author Jenny Stojkovic, which everyone should check out. We'll link it below because she kind of deep dives the meat industry with us. And we asked a bunch of questions on what carnivores like us will eat, or omnivores technically.
Yeah.
However, it's literally comes down to like the Bible. Like I really do believe we need that animal protein in our diets. We just need to really address some of these issues in the, factory farming and pollution. The methane of cows is a huge factor in global warming. But anyway, it's such a innate thing that we deal with as humans, that we need to consume food and we should pay more attention to it. And we don't all have to try to look like Brock. Trust me, I've tried. It didn't work.
You know what the problem is? We made this comic book and that's how they drew me, and I have to try to get there. So
anything else is a failure.
My life is, yeah, exactly. Chicken and rice.
Yeah, man. I mean, my final thoughts would just be eating healthier does not mean eating more expensively.
I like that.
What about you?
Yeah, I mean, it's like, I would just say, treat yourself as if you are going to be the highest version of yourself. What does that person look like? How will you show up for yourself? Is eating that entire box of Cheez-Its in one sitting how your highest version of yourself would be? And that's kind of what I'm always chasing. And I mess up all the time.
Right.
I cheat on my meals, right? Or I'll get a treat or a snack that I know I shouldn't, but I'm just craving it and I want to, and I do it, and
that's part of the process.
It's part of the process.
It's like golf, dude. There is no perfect golf shot.
Yeah.
Like it's a game of mistakes.
Yeah.
Just like diet and nutrition is. Like you will make mistakes. It's okay.
Yeah.
Just try to keep going.
Yeah. And then when you do, how do you show up after that? How do you treat yourself? If you're going to beat yourself up and talk bad to yourself, it's like, no, that's not okay either. But what's that highest version? Where do you want to go, and how do you get there? And I think for me, again, I want to be the highest version of myself, whatever that looks like. And it's going to be a lifelong journey, and I'm never probably going to reach there, but I'm going to attempt that for the rest of my life so that I can keep being a better, more evolved version. And that same thing applies to my nutrition, right? And what I'm putting in my body. And we're going to learn more in the next year, the next 5 years, next 10 years as a society, but also as individuals. And, I may become extremely obsessed with it and it could be my whole life. I don't know. But what I do know is what I do know now, I will apply it and I will continue to keep showing up better for myself. And I think that is, maybe something I want to leave people with.
Well said, man. Well said. And yeah, I totally agree. Finding out your own personal goals, finding out what works for you. And yeah, hell yeah, dude. We're, again, not on a high horse. I cannot say that enough.
I have photos to prove how out of shape I've gotten. I've had.
Well, me too, but I tried to delete all of them.
Yeah, I get it. I tried to delete them out of my mind as well. But mine, not yours.
No.
And, but yeah, no, I mean, we're human, And what does your dream life look like to you? Food is a huge part of that. It's a part of everybody's, life. And whether we like it or not, it is. So if you're a foodie and you want to go around and just taste food the whole day, and your goals aren't to be, action star or walk on a bodybuilding stage or whatever it is, then go do that. Enjoy your life, right? But at the same time,
of course,
realize, I think as long as we realize what we're putting in our body, how we treat ourselves, it's an important factor in every aspect of life. Food is life.
100%. It's the awareness of it, being conscious, a little more conscious of it. And that can slowly over time lead to habits and change, and you never know.
Yeah. All right.
That
was our nutrition episode.
Yeah. All right. Fuck yeah.
Let's go eat.
Thank you for watching Studio 22.
Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
And follow our socials at Studio 22 Podcast.